is our surrounding, or I can tell the definition as it is the social, physical as well as the cultural condition that surround, affect and influence growth, survival and development of people, animals as well as plants. We call them as environment. So whatever is there around us, it is influencing us, okay, for our survival, growth as well as development. We call it as environment. It can be social, or it can be cultural, or it can be any physical component which is affecting us. So this is the meaning of, or the definition of, environment. Environment is every aspect that is influencing us, or any organism. It's not only humans, it is any living organism. It can be plants, it can be animals, or it can be humans also. So any aspect that is, or any issue that affect an organism is called as environment. Environment is a multidisciplinary approach, because to understand our environment, we need to understand several other subjects. We have science, we need to know, the cultural background, we need to know the society, the politics, okay, law, or there are so many other things which are interlinked to understand our environment. That's why we call environmental studies an multidisciplinary approach. Okay, so essentially the multidisciplinary approach that brings about the appreciation of our natural world and the human impact on our environment is what we are going to study here. Also, we call environmental studies as applied science. Why are we calling it as applied science? As we are seeking practical answers for whatever problems we have created around us, and also we are wanting to develop sustainable approach. So what is sustainable approach? What are we exactly going to study? Why this subject is very, very important for our future generation is what we are going to study in this particular unit. So I hope you have understood what is the meaning of environment. Next is goals of environmental education. What is the goal of environmental education? Why do we have to study this particular subject? And why is this subject, compulsory for all the streams under undergraduate? That is because we need to develop a population which is concerned about the environment, who will understand the problems which is there in our environment, and also we need a population which will get committed individually and also collectively towards the solution of current problems, and also try to prevent further problems. That's the main goal of environmental studies what we have. We need to be responsible. We need to be responsible about our environment. We need to understand what is the problem which is going on, what are the consequences of these problems, and how are we going to solve all these problems which is there currently in our environment, so that we can save ourselves and save our environment for the future generation. That's the main goal of environmental studies. Next, we learn about the components of environment. See, components of environment can be broadly classified as physical components, okay? Then we have biological components as well as social components. Under physical components, we have atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere. When all these three are put together, we get biosphere, which is a biological component, and also about the social component, in which we are learning about the politics and about the culture which is affecting our environment. Okay, so we learn about what are the physical and the biological components here, and social components we'll be learning later in this subject. Okay, so first moving on to the physical components of environment. First one is atmosphere. What is atmosphere? Atmosphere is a blanket of gases which is there around the earth. In simple words, if I have to tell. Okay. What is hydrosphere? Different water bodies which you can see in earth, we call them as hydrosphere. It can be river, it can be ocean, it can be lake, etc., etc. Okay. Any water bodies which is there, we call them as hydrosphere. What is lithosphere? Lithosphere contains various types of soil, rocks on the earth. So different types of soil. If you go from one place to another, we can see there's a variation with the type of rock, the type of soil which is there in that particular land, isn't it? All of this comes under lithosphere. And the last is biosphere, a very important component that is composed of all living organisms and their interaction with the environment. So biosphere is something which comes in between. Okay, we have all the living organisms put together, and how are they interacting with atmosphere, hydrosphere as well as lithosphere, all comes in one component which we call it as biosphere. Okay, so that's about the different components. Now we'll go into the detail for every component. Okay, that is, first we are learning what is atmosphere. Atmosphere is a protective blanket of all the gases around us. It can be hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen gas. We have a mixture of gases or air which is there around us, which we call it as atmosphere. But of course, the lowest layer of the atmosphere, we call it as troposphere. And that's the only part which is warm enough for us to survive, and it is only 12 kilometers thick. Okay. After troposphere, we have stratosphere, okay, that is 50 kilometers thick and contains the layer of sulfates, which is very important for the formation of rain. And also, it contains the ozone layer, which is protecting us from the UV radiation. We all know if the UV radiation is coming directly into Earth, and if it, we are exposed to it, we can get skin cancer or it can damage our eye, etc. So the ozone layer is protecting us, which belongs to stratosphere. So if you see the troposphere, 0 to 12 kilometers, and between stratosphere and troposphere we have the ozone layer, and stratosphere is from 12 to 50 kilometers, which these are the two layers which is called as atmosphere. Okay. Next is hydrosphere. Hydrosphere covers 3/4 of the Earth's surface. That means we have very little land and we have lot of water around us in the Earth's surface. And in hydrosphere, the major part is the marine ecosystem. Okay, that is the oceans and the seas which is there, where there is sea water, salt water is there. So that makes up the major part of the hydrosphere, and there's a small part which has got the fresh water. Under fresh water we have rivers, lakes, glaciers, etc. These can be renewed by the process of evaporation and rainfall. So whatever water is evaporated goes above, forms the cloud, and then there is precipitation, and then there can be rain which can come down, and fresh water is renewed in this way. Okay. Some of the fresh water lies underground. Okay, that is underground we have wells, we have bore wells from which we are getting the fresh water, isn't it? So some of the fresh water is there underground also. But now the human activities like deforestation, or the amount of industries which we have and the water pollution is having a serious change in our hydrosphere. So in hydrosphere we have lot of ocean, or we have the marine ecosystem, which is the major part, and there is very little amount of fresh water which is there in the form of river, lakes, and also underground. Okay, then the process of evaporation, and then there is a formation of the cloud, precipitation, and then there can be rainfall or snowfall, through which the fresh water is getting renewed of hydrosphere. Okay, so that's about hydrosphere. Next we'll move on to lithosphere. In lithosphere is the Earth's crust, that is the surface of the crust, about 6 to 7 kilometers thick. We call it as lithosphere. Okay, and it lies under the continents. Rocks were broken down into soil. Soil was further used for the agricultural purposes by humans. Also, the minerals what we get from lithosphere is used as the raw material for many industries. Now, what is the composition of lithosphere? See, you can see this is the core of the earth, okay, which is called as mesosphere, and the outer core, which is a liquid, and then we have the inner core, which is a rigid solid. After this, we have astrosphere, that is the ductile solid we call it as, and then comes the last part, that is called as the lithosphere, which is a brittle solid. Okay, so lithosphere is a very small layer that is only 6 to 7 kilometers thick, and in this one what we have, what is the composition what we have? You can have 47% oxygen, 27% silicon, 88% aluminium, 5% iron, 4% calcium, and 2% magnesium, potassium, and sodium. Okay. Also, there is core which contains iron nickel alloy with high density. Okay. So that's about composition of lithosphere. Next is about biosphere. What exactly are we going to study in biosphere? Biosphere is which contains all the living organisms and its interaction with environment. I can tell that the biosphere is the thinnest layer in which actually life exists. Within the biosphere, we have air, water, rocks, then we have plants, animals, living organisms, any living organisms which are interacting with one another to form the structural and functional ecological unit, and it becomes the most largest unit where there is interaction between the non-living as well as the living systems so well. Okay, so here what is done is those with a similar geography and the climate, okay, and having similar kind of animals and fauna, that is the plants, all are grouped together and divided into biogeographical realms. Okay, and we know the earth's surface is divided into different continents, in which we can tell every continent has its own kind of climate. Okay, they have a own kind of ecosystem which is there. Okay, and also we have different types of animals. Okay, some animals are there only in certain continents and not there everywhere else, because there is a certain kind of geographical climate as well as an ecosystem where only that animal can exist only there and not elsewhere in the world. So here in biosphere, they have divided all the land or space where living organisms are there into different units, or we call them as biogeographical realms with different climate, different flora as well as the fauna. So that's about the biosphere. Next we have the multidisciplinary nature of environmental studies. As I told you all, environmental studies is a multidisciplinary science, because to understand this, we need to learn all the other branches like chemistry, physics, medical science, life science, agriculture, public health, sanitary engineering. You need to know the geography, need to know the politics, need to know the cultural components, etc., etc. So there are so many subjects which is put together to understand what is environment and how all the components are interlinked with one another. That is, it studies about the source, reaction, transport, effect. Okay, from where are we getting certain things? How can it be transported from one place to another? How will it affect us? Okay, and the fate of physical and the biological species in the planet, which is interacting with air, water, soil, and also what is the impact of human on all of this? How are we having the effect on all of these components around us? We are going to study here, and that's the reason we call it as multidisciplinary nature. Also, environment is a very complex and actually made up of different environment. Okay, what is the meaning of environment is made up of different environment? I can tell environment contains natural environment, cultural environment, constructed environment. Okay, and all these are interlinked with one another. Natural environment means what is existing naturally around us. Constructed environment means we are artificially constructing something. We are constructing lot of buildings here. We are constructing artificial lake. Okay, there wasn't a lake there, but we have constructed there, and we are trying to put up an ecosystem over there, okay, in any one place. Or we are trying to conserve certain regions so that the animals as well as the plants there will not get affected. So they are all constructed environment. Natural environment, which was naturally occurring. Okay, the cultural environment, how are we using the environment, how exactly we are destroying that also, as well as how are we trying to save it for the future generation. All of this we are going to study under this one subject. Also, this subject educates the students to appreciate the complexity of the environmental issues. So that's the reason we call it as multidisciplinary approach of EVS. Okay. Next is scope of EVS. Environmental studies as a subject has a wide scope. Okay. What is that? It includes the large number of areas and aspects, which are the natural resources. How are we going to conserve that? Okay, and how are we going to utilize it efficiently, and how are we going to manage it? We'll study about that. Next is, it includes ecology and biodiversity. It also includes environmental pollution and control, as well as the human population and control, and how are we affecting the environment. Also, we study about the social issues in relation to development of the environment. Okay, so all of this we are going to study here as a subject, and there are lot of career options that have emerged due to environmental studies. What is that? The first one is R&D in environment, that is research and development in environment. The environmental scientists who are there, they have a lot of research and development work to be done so that we have a sustainable approach towards the environment. Also, how do we conserve them? What are the problems which we have created. Maybe we have created pollution, and we have deforestation which has occurred. There is a lot of problem with the climate change. All of this, why is it happening, we can find out. What is the solution, can be found out by research and development in environment. And the scientists have a lot of work to be done when it comes to eco-friendly products which has to be taken care of. Okay. Second thing is green advocacy. Now, what is this green advocacy? There are a lot of laws, lot of acts which has been passed so that we can save the environment, that is save wildlife, save plants, okay, the trees, and also to save ourselves from pollution, that is pollution control. Several acts has been, there are several laws and acts which has been passed to save the environment, that is save our wildlife, plants, etc. So there is a need for lawyers which has emerged who can plead the cases which is related to air, water, forest, wildlife, pollution control, etc. And this is called as green advocacy. Next is green marketing. When we buy any of the products, to ensure the quality, we look into the ISO mark. Similarly, nowadays, to get the products which are eco-friendly, there is an eco mark which is done, or we get ISO 1400 certified products. Okay, these products are those which are eco-friendly, and due to this, there are a lot of environmental auditors and environmental management, and due to this, there are a lot of environmental auditors and environmental managers who would be in great demand in future. Okay. Next is green media. Now, what is green media? Through media, we are educating our population about what are the damages which we are doing to the environment, and how are we going to save the environment, or what are the consequences we are facing due to the damage, and what are the solutions which we can do to save our environment, and how we can be individually responsible towards the environment. We can make sure it reaches every person by using green media. The last one is environmental consultancy. What is it? Environmental consultancy. There are many NGOs, industries which are working systematically to tackle all the problems related to the environment under environmental consultancy. So these are some of the career options, and this is the scope of environmental studies. We also learnt about the 4 components of environment, isn't it? Today, I shall continue with the importance of environmental studies. The first one being the environmental issues that are globally important. That is, there are some issues which we have to all put effort together so that the problem can be tackled. Which are those problems which is there around the world? It is for all, it is for common, for everyone. That is global warming, ozone layer depletion, acid rain, marine pollution, and loss of biodiversity. Now, these are the problems which is there not only in India, it is of concern for everyone around the world. That is, the temperature is increasing, global warming, ozone layer depletion, marine life. We know that 3/4 of the earth is made up of water, in which the major part is the marine ecosystem, and this is getting polluted, isn't it? So all of this we are going to learn here. And also, next thing is problems cropped in the wake of development. What are the different problems which is cropped? That we are going to learn. It is about the urbanization, industrial growth, transportation system. We also learn about the agriculture, housing, etc. All of these problems have given birth in the name of what? Development. Okay. Next is, we are also going to study about the explosive increase in population. The explosive increase in population has led to several problems. Now, if I take India alone, it has 16% of the world's population and has got only 2.4% of the land area. That means India is heavily populated and we have a very small amount of land resource. Thus, the agricultural experts have identified soil health problems, deficiency of micronutrients and organic matter, oil salinity, and the damage of the soil structure, which can lead to lot of problems for supplying enough of food for the amount of population which we have. And the food which is grown, or the crops which is grown in this land, which has so many problems, may not be of that superior quality as well. We need to have concern about the soil health as well. Okay. So next is the need for wise planning of development. We need to plan very wisely about the developmental parts. That is, we have to take care that we are not spoiling the environment. We have to have a sustainable approach so that we are going to save our environment for the future generation. And also, everyone individually as well as collectively, we need to be responsible for the environment around us. So there is a need for wise planning. Next, we are going to study about the concept of sustainability and about sustainable development. The sustainability and the sustainable development. What is the meaning of this? And this is the topic of most concern which we have now. And also, the concept of sustainability was brought to attention to humanity during 20th century. During this time, there was a lot of development which was happening in few countries, which originated to new problems. What are those problems? The problems of pollution. There can be lot of pollution, air pollution, water pollution, lot of plastic waste which came into existence. There are so many other problems which originated due to the development of few countries, which was of lot of concern to our environment. So that is when the approach of sustainable development came into existence. So what is sustainable development? Sustainable development is meeting the needs of present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. So what we have to do? We have to meet our own needs, okay? But we should not compromise with the need of our future generation. That means we have to save all the resources what we have. We have to use the natural resources optimally so that they can be saved for our future generation. We have so many natural resources, that is land resource, forest resource, energy resources, water resources, which we have to save it for our future generation, and it should be such way that even we can use, and also we have to save it for the future generation. So this approach, we call it as sustainable development. Next is about the important components of sustainable development. There are three important components: economic development, community development, and environmental protection. That is, economically we should develop, community wise, that is the people or the country also should develop, and also we should protect the environment. So all of these three has to happen hand in hand so that we have a sustainable approach. So environmental development, what we have to take? A viable natural environment should be there around us so that we can save it for the future generation. Economic development, that is sufficient economy should be there, and also social development, that is nurturing the community. Okay, how are we going to have developmental activities which is happening in a particular community? Even that has to be taken care, such that we have sustainable naturally and built environment, sustainable economic development, okay, and also we'll have equitable social environment. So all of this has to happen hand in hand for sustainable development to take place. So all the development has to happen, but the most concern which we have to have in mind is to save the environment for our future generation as well as meet our own needs. This is sustainable development. Next is about the aspects of sustainable development. So what are the different aspects? There are major two different aspects, that is intergenerational equity, intragenerational equity. Intergeneration means it is within a community. Intergeneration equity means within the two generation. Okay, one is the present generation and the future generation. What we need to do is, it states that we should hand over a safe, healthy and resourceful environment. What is it? Safe, healthy, resourceful environment we have to hand over to our future generation. So it is intergeneration. From one generation to another generation, the environment has to be saved in a healthy way and we have to hand it over. That is intergenerational equity. The second aspect is the intragenerational equity. In this present generation, okay, we have some countries which is already developed, some countries which are still in the developing state. So in the developing countries, there is a lot of poverty, but in the developed countries, they are rich people. So what can be done? The technological development of rich countries should support the economic growth of poor countries. So those rich countries which is there, which is already developed, they have to help for the growth of the poor countries which are still in the developing stage, so that the gap, what gap? Wealth gap can be minimized and it can lead to sustainability. So that's about the aspects of sustainable development. Next is the approach of sustainable development. The first approach is developing appropriate technology. Now we have to develop an technology which can be used locally or adopted locally. It should be eco-friendly. The resources has to be used efficiently, and culturally also it should be suitable for adopting. Okay. So we have to develop technologies which are, what is it once again? Which can be locally adopted. It should be eco-friendly. Resources has to be used efficiently. Also, it should be culturally suitable. When we do this, what will happen is we can use local labor, less resources and produce minimum waste, which is the main sustainable development which we can do. So this is the first approach. Next is 3R approach, that is reuse, reduce, recycle. We have seen this several times, isn't it? But actually, practically, are we applying this? This is the most important approach of sustainable development. The 3R approach we call it as. We have to use the natural resources optimally. Okay, that is reduce. Then comes reuse as much as possible. There are some resources which we can use over and over again. Okay, that is reuse. And there are some resources which cannot be reused, but it can be recycled. So we have to segregate all the resources which can be reused, which can be recycled, and also we have to take care that some of the resources we use optimally. So this is the 3R approach of sustainable development. Next approach is providing environmental education and awareness. We have to provide all the education that can reach every individual about how our environment is getting affected, what are the consequences, how are we over exploiting it, and what is the solution, what we can do to save our environment for future generation. So it is very important to provide awareness. Next is consumption of renewable resources. We have to have an approach where we can use renewable resources more and optimally use the non-renewable resources. For example, solar energy, what we have, the energy which we can get from the sunlight. Okay, this is a renewable resource. It is not something which is going to get over after certain time, isn't it? So we have to have an approach where we can use renewable resources so that it will not affect our future generation at all. Okay, so we can do this. Also, non-renewable resources should be used optimally, and also it can be conserved by recycling and reusing. So we can do this. And the last one is by population control, we can make sustainable development. There's a huge population which we have, very small amount of land, but the population which is there depending on that land resource is very, very high. So population control can be done to go towards the sustainable development. Next is factors affecting the sustainable development. Why is it so difficult for the sustainable approach? First thing is excessive exploitation of non-renewable resources. We are just not thinking about the future generation at all. We are having some natural resources which we know it cannot be renewed, but still we are exploiting it. Okay, so this is the first factor. Second is about the increasing population growth and the population density. As I told you all, we have a large population which is dependent on very small amount of land resource which we have. And due to this, there is again exploitation of land resources also. So this is second factor which is affecting the sustainable approach. Next is decreasing gross domestic product per capita. The next one, uncontrolled consumption of energy and environmental pollution. So there is a lot of pollution which we are causing. We are just not controlling the pollution, nor we are trying to save the energy. The energy what is there, it can be electrical energy or it can be nuclear energy, whichever is the energy resource which we have, we are using it uncontrollably. Okay, and the last one is deterioration of land. Our land resources are getting deteriorated because of deforestation and we are entering into desertification mode. So this is some of the factors which is affecting the sustainable development. Next is about the awareness of global dimension of environmental problems. So globally, for this environmental problems to be solved, what are the different approaches which we have? Okay, the first one is there was a conference which was held in Stockholm at Sweden in 1968 to focus on human interactions and their environment. That was the first conference which was held. At conference, it became very clear that environmental protection and societal development have significant political implication as they are directly linked to human rights. So there are several human rights. That is, we have right to health, right to life, right to private family life, right to property, etc., etc. And these rights are actually those which are affecting our environment as well. Okay, that is the onset of various environmental issues, especially that is related to the climate change, has created potential conflict between the different rights for us humans. So this was the first conference and this was the discussion which was held. Next is the United Nations Summit. The issues which were addressed in the United Nations Earth Summit are: first thing is systematic scrutiny of pattern of production of especially the toxic components such as lead in gasoline, or it can be poisonous waste including radioactive chemicals. So what is the scrutiny which needs to be happening here? What are the strict measures which we have to take, or the laws which has to be passed to produce any toxic substances? That was the first issue that was addressed. Second thing is the alternative sources of energy to replace the use of fossil fuels. We know we have very little fossil fuels, and for the population what we have is actually insufficient. Thus, what is that source which we can replace the fossil fuels? So that should be of lot of concern. That was the second issue which was discussed. And the third one is the new reliance on public transportation system. We have to have a new transportation system so that the amount of vehicles which is running and the exhaust gases from these vehicles which is causing pollution can be controlled. So these are the three major issues which were addressed in United Nations Summit. Next is the bottom-up approach for the risk management. So what we need to do to save our environment? First is we have to identify the problem and design the solution, and we have to have a systematic approach to go towards the sustainable development. The second is the mitigation, adaptation and resilience are the instruments to secure resources and opportunities for the future generation. We have to prioritize what are the sources which we need to use and which are the sources which we need to conserve to give it to our future generation. Also, the importance of sustainability. Although we know about the importance of sustainability and sustainable development, still we have not got a clear picture in terms of, engineering. That is, there has to be a strategy that has to be designed so that we can save our environment for our future generation. So I hope you have understood this particular chapter. Thank you, my dear children. Stay tuned for more updates.